Good afternoon, everyone. We're here with the VSuccess. I'm Mario Michas from Lion Society. And Maya?
Hi everyone, my name is Maia Fukuyama and in my second year at Vanier in the psychology program.
All right, so we're here with Professor Bergeron of the Arts Department. So we're going to ask you some questions, Professor. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Andréanne Abbondanza-Bergeron, and I teach in the Communication, Media, and Studio Arts program. And personally, I'm a little bit more towards the Studio Arts section of our program. And I've been at Vanier for the past 8 years. And I'm also a practicing installation artist, sculptor, and I've been more recently working a lot in photography, considering the current situation.
Thank you.
You've been teaching at Vanier College for some time now. Can you please elaborate on your most memorable experiences at the college?
I think, the things that come up the most is really when we've had the chance to showcase the work of the students in the program. So we have, I don't know if some students are familiar, but we have a student-run gallery actually, where we showcase work by current student at Vanier. And we also have a film festival. So those events, the opening of galleries, the gallery, the film festival that we do, I think there's going to be an online version this year. But it's really nice to see basically the culmination of the students' work. There's one in particular I remember was a trio exhibition of sculptural installation at the gallery a couple of years back, which was extremely beautiful and made me very, very proud of my students, and I admired their work. So those are probably the best highlights of it.
Yes, definitely. It must be amazing to see the range and diverse talents that the students have.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken your class. I've seen you interact with students. I've seen you in meetings. I've seen you help students, and you're very involved in the community. But do you have any interests or hobbies outside of the school?
Yeah, actually many. I love sustainable agriculture. So things like permaculture, self-sufficiency, urban farming. Those are things that I have a deep interest with. Love nature as well, like going kayaking, camping. So this is something that I've done throughout my life, and probably traveling as well. So I've done many solo travel actually, and this is one of the way that I enjoy traveling with my partner, but also just solo traveling, leaving a month and a half with just a backpack and doing a few countries, just being discovering the food, the language, culture, obviously other people, meeting other people there. So yeah, those are some of the interests that I have.
I think it's fascinating to see that you have so many different interests and that you combine them together.
And how did your interest in fine arts, the history of art, and artwork come about?
I think I've always had, interest for the arts, especially visual arts. So as a child, I loved clay, I loved drawing, and for sure I've been encouraged by my parents. I think this is very important if you're a child, that you are encouraged in these fields. So my parents have always encouraged me and my siblings to be interested in the arts. And what's interesting is that I have a brother who's an actor and I have a sister who studied film. So the three of us actually ended up in the arts. So there's definitely was a lot of support in that sense. And then as I continued in my study, I would say that I had two different areas that really I found passionate about, was the arts and economy, which is usually not something that you pair much together, but it's something that I find maybe is something not spoken enough about in the arts sector, that especially if you're self-employed, you need to be able to develop the business side of things. So I've always had these two things, and in the arts, they've matched well together.
Yes, it's important to foster one's innate interests and abilities, as well as being able to incorporate one's interests. So you don't really need to work in a job where you ever feel bored or dissatisfied.
Mm-hmm. So what led you ultimately to become an academic, to teach at the college level?
Well, my studies included a master's in art education. So I I studied visual arts, so I did my CJEP in arts. Then I did some studies in architecture, and then I did studio arts in my undergrad, a master's in art education, and then a master's in sculpture. So it's been a mix of different things, but I have to say I really love learning. I love this environment. So an academic environment, you're in interaction with the community. It challenges you to think, to be at the forefront of ideas, of new concepts. So as I'm teaching new classes, for example, some of the art theory courses that we have, where I'm teaching contemporary art, I need to look at what's happening. So being in an academic context, either studying or teaching, actually really puts you in a stimulating environment. So I guess that's why I continued in both areas, both in the practicing studio arts field, but also academic and teaching.
And your work has been put on display in many art galleries from different countries. How was the experience of having your art being admired internationally? And did you find that the reception that viewers had to your work changed depending on the country?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean it's just a really incredible experience, like on the human level when you're exhibiting elsewhere, even if it's not, some of these exhibitions, the first few exhibitions I had in Europe was mostly linked to student exhibition at the university that I did with some of my peers, but we went there, we met with other young artists, we stayed at their place, we put the exhibition together, so it's just a beautiful experience. You learn about their own work. It's different, every place, the culture is different, the artwork that is being made is different. The reception is, yes, there is a difference that I've noticed. I have more experience in exhibiting in Europe, so I can only speak about that experience. But I would say one thing that I've noticed is that there is more of a general knowledge about the arts. In the general population, not just artists, and there's an appreciation for it, which I found extremely beautiful to see. That when you're mentioning that you're an artist, there's an interest, there's a sense of respect for the work you're doing, and I think this is something that we could definitely get inspired from in terms of having an education about art and culture, certainly your own culture and the art from the country you're from, but also from elsewhere as well.
Definitely. Art and culture is one of the pillars of society, one of the main pillars, and it's something that allows for different communities of people to really interact with each other in a way that kind of transcends just speaking to one another.
So in the arts, you obviously need a big imagination. You need to be able to think about things creatively. So where do you draw your inspiration from?
I would say the main inspiration is from past and current artists. So discovering the work of artists through books, through exhibitions, reading. Just that doesn't need to be related to the art, the general reading, just ideas. The more you mix ideas, you add to your pool of knowledge, the more you can grab on certain information and you just bring them together and make sense of it through your own work. There's also changing your environment, which I find really, and this is probably why traveling for me is something that I gravitate towards, because when you're traveling, you're changing your environment, you start seeing. So as you're moving along through life, if you're always in the same environment, you stop seeing what's in front of your eyes. So by changing that environment, suddenly you're stimulated, you see, you absorb so much. And it's something that I try to do even as an exercise in my own city, in Montreal, to try to go out for, harder right now, but to go out for a day and just, pretend you're a tourist in your own city. What do we do when we go elsewhere? We go to a museum, we look around, we're looking up, we're looking at the architecture, we're looking at the store, everything is new information. So even when I'm not traveling, I try to sometimes do that exercise.
So yes, I think a diversity of settings is actually a very inspiring thing, and it allows you to have a more open mind, which allows you to create more imaginative type of art.
So you've participated in artist conferences and talks at different institutions. Why do you personally think that it's important to have such gatherings? And what do you think they help to contribute towards the art community?
I think it's, once again, the idea of exchanging ideas, exchanging perspective, other perspective, a different way of seeing, different way of creating. I think an artist talk is pretty much the beginning of a conversation. It's not, it's not an end of its own. It's what it opens up afterwards. I've given, some artist talks, but I've also seen many of them. And then you start reflecting on it. You think back on what the person said, what they showed. You discuss it with colleagues, with other artists, with classmates. So this, this adds to this pool I was talking about, this pool of ideas and concept that you have. And then you can draw from inspiration from this, making your own work.
It makes the entire process much richer.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything in your experiences as an artist that allowed you to become a better teacher? Meaning, is there anything that you applied from your experience as an artist in your teaching?
Mm-hmm. I think it's really relevant to understand the creative process if you're an artist yourself, because looking at it only from the finished product, looking, if you're studying art history and you look at a slide of this painting, you're only seeing the finished product. You don't see the creative process. You don't see the process behind it, the way that a person might get to that final point. So being an artist myself, being in a studio setting, you really understand more how that functions and how to help in studio context, how to help the student to get to that, through that process and to that final product, because it's as that creative process is the core of art making. So whether in a studio setting, I've taught teaching sculpture, I'm teaching design, I'm teaching different courses, but it's really important to develop those conceptual ideas in order to get to where you want. And it's a process that can take time. So most often people think of inspiration as the spark that, suddenly happens. It's not how it works. You digest all the information that you have, all those inspiration. You start thinking about an idea, and then it sort of ruminates in the back of your head. And then at some point, yes, the idea comes, but it's built on so much more than just that moment. And the same thing it's true for scientific discoveries. So it's not just the art. The creative process can actually be looked at in different fields.
Yes, I think someone once said it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So you have to know the know-how.
Yeah, definitely.
So deriving from your diverse experiences that you've had throughout your life, do you have any academic or life advice that you would like to share with our viewers?
I think there's this, always taking the opportunity to learn and to see, what you can improve, what you can get. Making things your own, I find, is important in your own studies, like making your own path, not just following what is being offered, but see, okay, what interests me? What do I want to develop and to put in the work? If I make it more specific to the art, I think there's often maybe to encourage people who have an interest in the arts, there's often a misconception that you're either creative or you're not, you're artistic or you're not. And I absolutely don't believe that. I think, like anything in life, art can be something that can be learned, it can be developed, and you're just building your skills, and also not to see failures as something bad, to see them as opportunity to grow and to improve. I think that's extremely important, because we tend to see, a bad grade, oh, I'm a failure, I'm bad. No, this is a chance and opportunity to actually improve. And you never know also where things will lead you. Sometimes we hear a lot of, follow your passion or follow, get your dream job. And it's sort of that fixed mentality of that one perfect thing that if you don't get, or if you don't know what you want, you're aimless in your life. I think that's also something that might be better to think in terms of what can you explore, what can you add to your portfolio, to your tool set, and as you go along, you can actually discover what you want to do, and it might bring you somewhere completely different. So to sort of, develop throughout your way and not just start with a fixed point of view. So I would say that's something. And then maybe the last thing I would say that applies to the art, but it applies also to other fields, and we mentioned that earlier, was hard work is important in any field, and often the most defining character trait in someone who's extremely successful, whether it's a successful artist, a successful person in other fields, in sport and science, is not necessarily how much talent they had to begin with, but it's how much hard work they put into their career, to their field. So I think that's something important not to lose sight of.
Yes, I agree with you. I believe as well that everyone has the capacity to be creative, and part of the beauty in life is definitely the journey, not necessarily the destination. So thank you very much for your participation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
So we've come at the end of our interview. I hope you all enjoyed it. Professor Bergeron, thank you for participating once again. I think that you shared some very valuable advice, especially about being flexible in one's life and meeting the hurdles that come through and that try and pose as obstacles. And I think being flexible and being adaptable are very important traits to have. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a nice day.